Here's your wrestling news for August 26, 2022, and we're kicking off today with AEW, as a lot has been said about wrestlers being unhappy, with Miro and Andrade El Idolo liking tweets suggesting they'd be better in WWE. With that said, it's not just the men of AEW who are experiencing drama backstage, but there is some genuine beef between some of AEW's top women. A new report from Voices of Wrestling's Joe Lanza states that there is very real hatred between Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker, who have been mortal enemies for years. Baker isn't the only one who has had an issue with Rosa though, as the report adds that after the champ broke Jamie Hayter's nose during their match at Battle of the Belts 3, Thunder Rosa was left fearing for her life. Rosa was scared that Jamie Hayter was going to beat the living shit out of her and was hiding in a bathroom. Later on, Fightful's Will Washington corroborated Lanza's reports, saying he's heard the same from his sources. Lanza also suggested that Thunder Rosa's injury announcement during this week's Dynamite may not be real, but rather that AEW management just want her away while things cool off. Whatever the case, an interim AEW Women's World Champion will be crowned at All Out, as either Baker, Hayter, Hikaru Shida, or Toni Storm will follow on from Rosa's controversial title reign. No matter who's crowned champion at All Out, they won't be facing Thunder Rosa for quite some time, and we won't be hearing from the AEW Women's World Champion either. In a tweet, it was confirmed that Thunder Rosa is off social media and that her agent, Tony St. Allen, will be operating her Twitter for the time being. Allen didn't explain why Thunder Rosa is off, though we imagine seeing reports of her having heat backstage has been a factor in her decision. Social media can often be a great place for wrestlers to interact with fans, but it can also be a very toxic place too. And for now, Rosa's focus is on getting healed up and back in the ring. Yesterday, we reported on Eddie Kingston, who was recently suspended from AEW for some comments the company disapproved of. For the past few weeks, Kingston has been suspended due to something that was said to Sammy Guevara, and now the Mad King has spoken again, though this time in a much softer tone. When PW Insider reached out to Kingston over what was reported to have been said, the AEW star admitted that he was at fault and did not defend his comments. "I was wrong for being unprofessional. That is the blind fact. He did what he did and the public can judge that, but I know for a fact I was wrong." It's been confirmed that Kingston was enraged by a comment during a promo that was ultimately cut, in which Guevara called him a fat piece of shit. Now, Kingston is wanting to put this whole sordid affair behind him and move on with his AEW career, but with so many reports about what happened, that may be difficult for the Mad King. Kingston isn't the only one to speak out about the matter, as Sammy Guevara has also given his interpretation of events. When asked by Fightful, Guevara explained how the reports of him calling Kingston fat and said that while it works for his character, it's something he fundamentally disagrees with. "I see what people say online about Eddie and his appearance, which anyone who legitimately shames Eddie for how he looks can go to hell. It's the same people who shame me for being too small." Guevara didn't think much of the line during the promo, as he explained that he doesn't think Kingston is fat, but his heel character does, but things took a turn once he walked through the curtain. Eddie's flipping out, yelling, "You can't call me fat," over and over as I'm trying to walk down the stairs in Gorilla, making a big scene. People get in between us. Eddie tries to pie face me, and he more like touches my face. It was weird. In the end, Guevara chalked it up to Kingston having anger management issues, adding that the Mad King should have spoken with him before the promo to explain what should and shouldn't be said. While a segment confirming their match at All Out was taped for this week's Dynamite, it was ultimately removed from the show, so it remains unclear whether the match that caused all this controversy even happens at all. Earlier this year, it was reported that Monday Night Raw would be moving to a TV-14 rating after years of being PG, but those reports were a little hasty. Instead, it later came out that WWE had been considering the move, which was expected to happen within a couple of months, but now that doesn't look to be happening either. According to Brad Shepard, Triple H announced during a company call that the WWE is not moving to TV-14 for their shows, or at least it's not happening anytime soon. Fans were certainly excited when news of the TV-14 rating broke, but it was later clarified that little would change other than some of the language used. Those clamoring for a return of the Attitude Era would have been disappointed, as WWE had no plan on treating their female talent as nothing but eye candy under the new rating, and it was doubtful they'd bring back blood. Ultimately, WWE will do what they feel is best for the company, and right now, what's best for WWE is sticking to their PG rating. One name fans can see each week on Raw is Bianca Belair, who has become the face of WWE's women's division. Winning back-to-back WrestleManias and multiple championships, Belair is a force to be reckoned with in the ring and is now taking her talents to a bigger audience. Variety were the first to break the news that Belair has signed with WME Talent Agency, a Hollywood firm that strive to develop her in a variety of fields, including marketing, acting, and podcasting. There's no word yet on whether any offers have been made to the EST of WWE, but we have to imagine that companies will be wanting to work with WWE's arguable biggest female superstar today. Of course, if Belair's prospects outside of WWE get bigger, that'll mean she'll have less time for her role within the Stephanie McMahon-Nick Khan-ran company, so we'll just have to see what WWE does with their Raw Women's Champion. More from AEW as this week's Dynamite saw Jon Moxley squash CM Punk to become the AEW Undisputed World Champion, a result fans did not see coming. Originally, the title unification match had been booked for All Out before being moved to Dynamite, which has left next week's pay-per-view without a main event. On Wrestling Observer Radio, Dave Meltzer addressed the main event of All Out and what it'll be. It's Punk and Moxley. I don't know if they're gonna add Stips or whatever, but that's the main event. It's unclear how AEW will put Punk back in the title picture, especially after he not only lost, but lost so decisively to the former Shield member. While AEW has plenty of talented wrestlers and the latest rankings show Hangman Adam Page, Powerhouse Hobbs, Jay Lethal, Bryan Danielson, and Darby Allin all in line for a title opportunity, it'll be Punk Moxley too at All Out, despite what happened on this week's Dynamite. Earlier this year, the Mysterios feuded with The Miz, culminating in a match at WrestleMania that also featured Logan Paul, and now this feud is back, but not on WWE TV. Instead, the Mysterios will go head-to-head against the Miz's family during an upcoming celebrity edition of Family Feud with Steve Harvey. Given that The Miz was abducted by Dexter Lumis on this week's Raw, appearing on Family Feud will be a breeze for the A-lister, who looks to get the win over Ray again, this time outside of the ring. And we're ending today with Vince McMahon, as the past 2 months have been a monumental shift for the former chairman, who recently celebrated his birthday. TMZ's photographers in New York City caught a few snaps of McMahon, who had his birthday with fellow WWE stars John Cena and Brock Lesnar. SmackDown commentator Pat McAfee was also on hand for the party, as was an unidentified woman who remained close to McMahon. Not long after reports of McMahon's alleged relationships with female employees, it was claimed that the former chairman and his wife Linda were no longer living together, despite technically still being married to one another. The former chairman's life has been rocked over the past couple of months, and with him still under investigation by WWE's board of directors, we doubt that this week's party was the happiest of birthdays for Vincent Kennedy McMahon. Well guys, that's our news for today. Please share your comments below. Also hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell icon to receive all notifications. And as always, thanks for watching.